When the most powerful alien race in the galaxy unveiled their most advanced battle mechs to humanity, they expected awe and fear. Instead, they got a question that no one could have predicted: can we race them? What followed would change the fate of both species forever. The star system of Zythar had long been a symbol of technological dominance in the galaxy, a place where the most advanced and fearsome weapons of war were crafted. The Zytharians, with their towering, tenacious physiques and intelligence that surpassed most known species, had ruled the region for centuries. Their mechs, colossal machines designed for total destruction, were feared by all. These towering titans, forged from rare alloys and powered by energy cores that could level entire planets, were the cornerstone of Zytharian supremacy. To be invited to witness their unveiling was a rare privilege. So when the humans, a young species in the Galactic scheme, were invited to witness the latest and most advanced of these battle mechs, they were both eager and cautious. The arena was set on Zythar's largest moon, a place of solemn grandeur. A massive coliseum stood in the center, surrounded by shields and barriers to protect the observers from the sheer magnitude of what was about to unfold. The Zytharians had invited the humans here under the guise of a diplomatic gesture. They wanted to demonstrate the sheer might of their technological prowess, to show that there was no race, no civilization in the galaxy that could challenge them. As the humans arrived, they were led into the viewing area, their eyes wide with anticipation. They had heard stories of the Zytharian mech's tales of machines that could crush entire armies with a single blow, destroy cities in the blink of an eye, but no one could prepare them for the sight that greeted them. One by one, the Zytharian mechs emerged from beneath massive reinforced hangars. Each mech was more intimidating than the last. They were a fusion of raw power and advanced technology, towering over the observers like gods of war. Their limbs were constructed from unbreakable alloys, and their energy shields pulsed with a violent glow, signaling their readiness for battle. These were no ordinary machines. Each one was a masterpiece of destruction, designed to annihilate any threat that came their way. The Zytharian general, a towering figure himself, stood at the center of the arena. With a slow, deliberate motion, he raised his hand to signal the beginning of the demonstration. The mechs powered up, their massive engines thrumming to life. One by one, they moved across the battlefield with shocking speed for their size. Their weapons charging in a dazzling display of destructive force. The ground shook with each step they took, and energy blasts rang out, tearing apart mock targets designed to simulate enemy defenses. The Zytharian general's voice boomed over the speakers, extolling the virtues of the mechs. "Behold," he said, "the pinnacle of our technological prowess. These are our finest creations. No army, no force in the galaxy can stand against them." The humans watched in silence. There was no fear, no awe in their eyes. The spectacle was indeed impressive, but it was not what they had come to see. The Zytharians, in their arrogance, assumed that the humans were overwhelmed, that they would cower in fear at the sight of such power. But instead, a sense of curiosity began to spread among the human contingent. They had seen battles, they had seen destruction, but they had not come here to marvel at machines of war. They came to understand the full extent of what the Zytharians had to offer, and as they watched the mechs demonstrate their overwhelming firepower, their minds began to churn with a very different idea. What if these machines, these unstoppable forces, could be used for something else entirely? Something unexpected. The Zytharians, caught up in their own pride, failed to notice the shift in the air, the subtle change in the humans' demeanor. They were no longer just spectators. They had come to Zythar with a purpose to witness the impossible. But now they were ready to challenge it. The demonstration ended with a thunderous crescendo as the largest of the Zytharian mechs unleashed a final, devastating blast. Its primary cannon, glowing with charged plasma, fired into a target across the arena, disintegrating it in a flash of blinding light. Dust and debris rained down like ash, and the audience, alien dignitaries from across the galaxy, erupted in a chorus of approval. The Zytharian hosts basked in the admiration, convinced they had once again proven their dominance. This display wasn't just about showcasing their technological supremacy, it was a message, a reminder to the galaxy that the Zytharians were still unmatched. Among the observers sat the human delegation. Unlike the others, they didn't join in the applause or nod in silent respect. Instead, they exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. For most of the event, they had been quiet, merely watching the spectacle unfold. They had seen these titanic machines fire devastating weapons, crush obstacles, and execute maneuvers that seemed impossible for constructs of such immense size. Yet their reaction was peculiar. The Zytharians had expected awe, even fear. The Zytharians, though puzzled by the humans' unusual response, ultimately decided it would serve their purposes to humor them. After all, what harm could indulging their strange requests possibly bring? If anything, it would further showcase the versatility and superiority of their mechs, reaffirming their dominance. Their confidence was unshakable. These machines were built for war, not games, and certainly not for something as trivial as a race. But the humans' insistence had sparked an unexpected curiosity among the Zytharian Council. Perhaps this so-called race could also serve as a test of the mech's capabilities in speed and agility, areas rarely highlighted in combat scenarios. The arena, still echoing with the aftermath of the weapons demonstration, was quickly reconfigured. A winding course was laid out, weaving through artificial terrain designed to simulate battle conditions, sharp turns, sudden drops, and steep inclines. It was a track meant to challenge even the most agile machines, let alone the Zytharian mechs, whose primary focus had always been on brute force and overwhelming firepower. To the Zytharians, this course was yet another opportunity to highlight the all-encompassing superiority of their engineering. The humans, however, seemed unfazed. They calmly observed the preparations, their demeanor almost unnervingly casual. When it was time to present their own machines, the Zytharians expected something laughable, perhaps modified mining exozoots or primitive combat walkers. What the humans revealed, though, was far from laughable. From a transport vessel came a series of sleek, angular machines, smaller than the Zytharian mechs but radiating an air of precision and purpose. The human mechs were distinctly different in design. While the Zytharian titans were built to intimidate, towering over everything around them, the human machines were streamlined, their frames designed for maximum efficiency. They moved with a fluid grace that was almost unsettling, their joints articulated in a way that hinted at careful craftsmanship and countless hours of refinement. The Zytharian engineers scoffed. Too light, too fragile, they thought. These were not machines of war. They lacked the armor plating that could withstand direct hits from plasma cannons or the redundant systems that kept the Zytharian mechs operational even in the face of catastrophic damage. To the Zytharians, the human mechs were little more than toys. But as the human pilots prepared for the race, climbing into their machines with practiced ease, a sense of unease began to ripple through the Zytharian ranks. It wasn't the design of the human mechs that troubled them, but the demeanor of their operators. They moved with a quiet confidence, as though they were not just familiar with their machines but entirely in sync with them. The Zytharian general, still convinced of his inevitable victory, signaled the start of the race. The towering battle mechs rumbled to life, their engines roaring as they lined up at the start. Beside them, the human mechs powered up, their systems humming with a quieter but no less potent energy. The contrast was stark, raw, destructive power versus refined, focused precision. As the countdown began, a hush fell over the arena. The Zytharians were certain of the outcome. Their mechs, built for domination, would crush any competition. But the humans, with their strange machines and stranger motives, had already begun to challenge the Zytharians in ways they could not yet comprehend. The signal to start blared, and the mechs surged forward. In an instant, the humans revealed the true nature of their machines. They weren't simply smaller and lighter, they were faster, far faster than the Zytharians had anticipated. The human mechs shot ahead, weaving effortlessly through the first series of turns. The Zytharians, caught off guard, pushed their machines harder. Their massive mechs lumbered forward, the ground trembling beneath their weight, but already it was clear that something was different. The humans weren't just racing, they were showcasing an entirely new approach to piloting mechs. For the first time, the Zytharians found themselves questioning whether sheer power alone would be enough. The moment the race began, the stark contrast between the two groups' approaches became evident. The Zytharian mechs thundered forward, each step pounding the ground with immense force. They tore through the course with raw power, their massive frames barreling through obstacles that would have forced lesser machines to reroute. Their sheer size and strength were undeniable, and to the casual observer they seemed unstoppable. Yet there was something almost crude about their movements effective, but lacking the finesse that true mastery demanded. The human mechs, on the other hand, moved with an elegance that was almost mesmerizing. Where the Zytharian machines smashed through barriers, the human machines danced around them, using precision and agility to navigate the course. Each sharp turn was taken with precision, each incline climbed with ease. The humans didn't just control their machines, they seemed to flow with them, as if the pilot and the mech were extensions of the same entity. It wasn't brute force that drove them forward, but an intricate balance of speed, timing, and control. The first lap of the course was over in minutes for the human machines. The Zytharians, however, struggled to complete it. Their mechs, designed for combat and domination, were ill-suited for the tight turns and complex maneuvers the track demanded. By the time the Zytharian mechs completed the first lap, the humans had already started their second, widening the gap between the two groups with every passing moment. As the race progressed, the Zytharians began to grow frustrated. Their mechs were equipped with some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy: plasma engines, anti-gravity stabilizers, and energy shields that could repel starship-grade weapons. Yet none of it seemed to matter. The course wasn't a battlefield, and the humans weren't their usual enemies. Instead of trying to overpower the terrain, the humans worked with it, using every twist and turn to their advantage. The Zytharian general, watching from the observation deck, clenched his fists. This was not how things were supposed to go. His mechs were the pinnacle of Zytharian engineering, built to conquer entire worlds. To see them struggling against these smaller, seemingly fragile machines was unthinkable. Yet the evidence was undeniable. For all their technological superiority, the Zytharian mechs were failing to adapt to a challenge they had never been designed to face. The crowd, initially enthralled by the sheer spectacle of the Zytharian mechs, began to shift their focus to the human machines. There was something thrilling about the way they moved, something almost alive. Each turn, each leap, each calculated maneuver drew gasps from the audience. The humans weren't just racing, they were performing, turning the track into a stage and the race into an art form. By the end of the second lap, it was clear that the Zytharians were falling behind. Their mechs, for all their power, couldn't match the speed and agility of the human machines. The Zytharian pilots, trained for war and destruction, struggled to adjust to the demands of the race. Their frustration mounted with every misstep, every corner they failed to take as smoothly as their human counterparts. For the humans, however, the race was more than a challenge. It was an opportunity, a chance to show the galaxy what their species was truly capable of. They weren't just proving their machines were fast, they were proving their ability to think differently, to adapt to new situations with creativity and skill. The Zytharians had come to the race with the confidence of conquerors, but the humans had come with the determination of innovators. As the human machines crossed the halfway mark of the course, their lead became undeniable. The Zytharians, still lumbering through the track, could only watch as their supposed inferiors continued to defy expectations. This wasn't a battle of strength, it was a battle of ingenuity. And the humans, it seemed, had already won. The tension in the arena was palpable. The Zytharians, a species that had always prided itself on its invincibility, now found themselves struggling to comprehend what was unfolding before them. Their mechs, the epitome of war engineering, were faltering in a contest they had dismissed as trivial. Meanwhile, the humans, with their smaller, lighter machines, were dominating. What had begun as an exercise in intimidation had turned into a public spectacle of Zytharian inadequacy. As the race entered its third lap, the Zytharian pilots pushed their machines harder, desperation creeping into their movements. Engines roared louder and heavy feet pounded the ground with increasing ferocity. They tried to adapt, mimicking the human mech's techniques, taking sharper turns, adjusting their movements to conserve momentum. But their machines weren't built for this kind of precision. Their immense size and weight made every maneuver sluggish, every adjustment a struggle. The human pilots, meanwhile, maintained their pace with unwavering focus. Their machines glided over the terrain with an effortless grace, seamlessly navigating each twist and turn. The humans had anticipated this exact scenario. Their mechs were engineered not for brute strength, but for agility, speed, and efficiency. Every component had been optimized for mobility, every system fine-tuned for rapid response. Where the Zytharians relied on overwhelming power, the humans relied on precision and innovation. The course itself became an ally to the humans and an enemy to the Zytharians. Steep inclines that sapped the energy of the larger mechs were no match for the nimble human machines. Tight corners, which forced the Zytharian mechs to slow down or risk toppling, were taken with ease by the humans. Even the rough terrain, with its unpredictable dips and rises, played to the strengths of the human mechs' superior suspension systems. From the observation deck, the Zytharian general could no longer mask his frustration. His pride had blinded him to the possibility of failure, and now he was forced to confront the uncomfortable truth. The humans had outthought them. This wasn't just a race anymore. It was a challenge to everything the Zytharians believed about their superiority. The crowd, initially skeptical of the humans, began to cheer as the human mechs approached the final stretch of the course. Their performance was undeniably impressive, a demonstration of ingenuity that transcended species or cultural pride. The spectators, a mix of alien dignitaries and Zytharian elites, found themselves captivated by the humans' unconventional approach. This wasn't what they had expected, but it was undeniably thrilling. The Zytharian pilots, though furious, refused to give up. They pushed their mechs to their limits, ignoring the warning signs flashing across their control panels. Overheating engines, strange joints, and depleted energy reserves, they ignored them all, determined to salvage some shred of dignity. But their efforts only highlighted the limitations of their machines. The harder they pushed, the more their mechs faltered. One Zytharian mech, in its haste to close the gap, miscalculated a turn and crashed into a barrier, its towering frame crumpling under its own weight. Sparks flew and a deep, metallic groan echoed through the arena. The crowd gasped, and for a moment the race came to a halt as the remaining Zytharian mechs slowed to assess the damage. The human pilots, however, continued unabated, their focus unbroken. The incident was a harsh reminder of the Zytharian mechs' fragility when taken out of their element. These machines, built for destruction, were being undone not by an enemy force but by their own inflexibility. The humans, in contrast, showcased the value of adaptability, a trait the Zytharians had long dismissed as a weakness. By the end of the fifth lap, it was clear that the race was all but decided. The human mechs, despite their smaller size, had proven themselves superior in every way that mattered. The Zytharians, for all their might, were left grappling with the humbling realization that power alone wasn't enough. They had underestimated the humans, and in doing so, they had underestimated the very concept of innovation. As the race neared its final lap, the atmosphere in the arena shifted. The crowd, once skeptical of the humans' capabilities, now watched in a mix of awe and disbelief. Whispers rippled through the stands. Could this young species, barely a footnote in the grand history of the galaxy, truly outshine the mighty Zytharians? The evidence was undeniable. The human mechs had not just outperformed, they had redefined what everyone thought was possible. The Zytharian pilots, however, were not ready to concede. Despite their earlier setbacks, they pushed their mechs to the brink of collapse, determined to regain their honor. Engines roared louder and sparks flew as systems strained under the increasing load. They abandoned finesse entirely, resorting to raw aggression in a desperate attempt to close the gap. The lead Zytharian pilot veered dangerously close to a human mech, attempting to force it off course. The massive machine's shadow loomed over its smaller opponent, a clear reminder of its superior size and strength. For a moment, it seemed the strategy might work. The human mech wobbled, its balance momentarily disrupted. But then, with a quick adjustment, the smaller machine recovered, accelerating ahead with a burst of speed. The Zytharian pilot's gamble had failed, and worse, it cost him valuable time. The human mechs continued to widen the gap, their superior maneuverability allowing them to capitalize on every misstep the Zytharians made. Each twist of the course became a stage for the humans' mastery, each obstacle a challenge they overcame with ease. In the control room, the Zytharian engineers scrambled to make sense of what was happening. Data streams from their mechs revealed alarming trends: overheating cores, structural stress, and failing joints. The machines, built for destruction, were being pushed far beyond their intended limits. But the engineers' warnings went unheeded. Pride drove the Zytharian pilots now, and they would sooner see their machines fall apart than accept defeat. Meanwhile, the human pilots remained composed. Their movements were calculated, their actions deliberate. It was clear that they had trained for this moment, that every maneuver was the result of meticulous planning and practice. While the Zytharians fought against their machines, the humans worked with theirs, exploiting every advantage their designs offered. The crowd's attention was now firmly on the humans. Their machines were not just faster, they were smarter. Each leap, each turn, each burst of speed showcased a level of precision that the Zytharian mechs simply couldn't match. What had begun as a contest of strength had transformed into a demonstration of ingenuity. As the human mechs entered the final stretch of the lap, their victory seemed inevitable. The Zytharian mechs, despite their pilots' best efforts, were too far behind. One mech faltered entirely, its systems overloaded, forcing it to power down mid-course. Another limped toward the finish line, its once mighty frame now battered and broken. The realization began to dawn on the Zytharian general. This wasn't just a loss, it was a revelation. The humans had not only beaten them in the race, but had also exposed the flaws in their entire philosophy. The Zytharians had always equated strength with superiority, but the humans had shown them that true power lay in adaptability, creativity, and the ability to think beyond conventional limits. As the humans crossed the finish line, the crowd erupted in cheers. The Zytharians, though reluctant, couldn't help but feel a grudging respect. The humans had done the impossible. They had not only competed with the galaxy's most feared species, but had emerged victorious, not through brute force, but through sheer innovation. The human mechs crossed the finish line to a wave of stunned silence that swept through the arena. For a moment, the Zytharians, their guests, and even the humans themselves seemed to freeze in disbelief. The sheer weight of the moment pressed down on everyone. Then, the silence shattered into an eruption of cheers and applause. But it wasn't just the humans celebrating. The spectators, a diverse assembly of galactic dignitaries, roared with approval, recognizing the audacity and brilliance of what they had just witnessed. The Zytharian mechs, battered and trailing far behind, limped across the finish line one by one. Their immense frames, once symbols of invincibility, now looked almost pitiable against the sleek and efficient human machines. Even though Zytharian mechs, still operational, were visibly strained, their once flawless exteriors scorched and cracked from the punishment of the race. The Zytharian general, watching from his elevated platform, remained stone-faced, though his mind churned with the implications. The humans had achieved more than a simple victory. They had delivered a message, one far more profound than any speech or demonstration could convey. They had proven that strength wasn't confined to physical might or destructive power. It was about versatility, ingenuity, and the willingness to challenge established norms. The Zytharians had come to the race certain of their superiority, only to find themselves humbled by an upstart species they had barely considered a threat. What struck the Zytharian audience most deeply was not just the humans' triumph, but how they had achieved it. The humans had taken the very concept of Mechs machines designed for war and reimagined their purpose entirely. They had built their machines for precision, speed, and adaptability, qualities that the Zytharians had dismissed as secondary to raw power. It was a philosophical shift as much as a technological one, and it forced the Zytharians to confront uncomfortable truths about their own arrogance. The human pilots emerged from their mechs to the sound of applause and cheers. They were calm and composed, their expressions betraying neither arrogance nor gloating. They didn't need to revel in their victory. The results spoke for themselves. Their performance had been a declaration humanity was a force to be reckoned with, not because of overwhelming power, but because of their ability to think differently. The Zytharian general descended from his platform to meet the human delegation. Though his towering frame still exuded authority, there was a noticeable shift in his demeanor. The humans had earned his respect, something few species had ever accomplished. He stood before the human leader and offered a gesture of acknowledgement, not submission, but recognition of their undeniable ingenuity. The aftermath of the race rippled far beyond the arena. The event became a turning point, one that resonated across the galaxy. For the Zytharians, it marked the beginning of a period of introspection. They began to rethink their approach to technology and warfare, recognizing that their obsession with brute strength had blinded them to other possibilities. For the humans, it was a moment of validation, proof that they could hold their own on the galactic stage. As the human delegation prepared to leave Zythar, their victory sparked whispers among the gathered species. It was no longer just the Zytharians who were reevaluating their perceptions of humanity. Across the galaxy, civilizations began to take notice. The humans weren't just another young species clawing for relevance. They were something new, something unexpected. In the days that followed, the Zytharians sent emissaries to Earth, seeking not retribution but collaboration. They had seen the potential of human ingenuity and wanted to learn from it. The humans, in turn, recognized the value of Zytharian technology and began to envision what the two species could accomplish together. What had started as a challenge born of pride and arrogance ended as the first step toward an unprecedented alliance. The humans had come to Zythar as spectators, prepared to witness the might of an ancient power. They left as equals, having rewritten the rules of the game. The galaxy would never see them the same way again. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sci-Fi Horizon Stories for more thrilling tales of science fiction and adventure. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sci-Fi Horizon Stories for more thrilling tales of science fiction, unexpected twists, and interstellar adventures.